Greetings, everyone. This is Chris Frederick from the Stretch to Win Institute, and I'm really excited to be here with two guests, and they have something to do with the Arnold Classic Strongman competition just held in March 2013. And we're going to start with, I'm here with Brian Shaw, one of the competitors at that event, and I'm here with his main man, Justin Willis, who has a lot to do with keeping Brian Shaw ready to compete and fast recovery from training. And I'm just going to really turn it over to those guys so that you hear what they have to say about what it takes to keep a strong man strong and competing well. So let's start with you, Justin. Introduce yourself and what you do.
All right. Justin Willis. I'm an exercise physiologist. I mean, that's what my bachelor's degree is in. But I've worked in physical therapy basically for the last 10 years as a soft tissue specialist, working with a lot of manual therapy techniques, muscle energy, a lot of trigger point work. I was lucky enough to meet up with you guys here, last February 12th, and get my level 1 certification. Mm-hmm. And, shortly following that, Brian and I started working together and really exploring what that can do for him and help him with, not only flexibility, but, recovery, injury prevention, and really what we've seen, and strength is a big key in what we've seen.
Well, yeah, why don't we get into that with the strongman, sort of the strongman athlete. Is that a correct way to refer to you, Brian? And so, Justin, tell us what it takes to work with a strongman athlete. I mean, soft tissue-wise, like if I was going to schedule Brian, I'd say, dude, 2 hours. If I'm going to do any soft tissue for your whole body, it's twice as long as a regular size person, if that's okay to say that. You know what I mean? Because you're not a regular size person. You're a strongman. You're a strongman size. And so you need a strongman appointment.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, Brian and I work together, almost every day. I mean, there's certain times of the year it absolutely is every day, and a pretty big part of the day. But there's nothing usual about what we do. It's not a normal client. He's very normal, but just in size. Brian's 6'8". Probably about 440, okay. And so just you probably see our table here. It's not a normal table. Brian's went through 2 already. Okay. So we built this one for Brian. It's longer and wider and a lot more sturdy than a normal table. So, but yeah, we do spend a lot of time together. Pretty much year round, really.
So let's get into the training of it aspects, like what a typical week or a typical day, or how would you schedule it in terms of, do you do any kind of work before he does his training? Does he ever interrupt his training if he's having any difficulties and he thinks it's a restricted joint or something? You work on it and he goes back to training, and then post-training, what kind of recovery stuff do you do?
Yes, to all of those.
So pre-training. Let's start with pre-training. Do you do anything dynamic for him? Like, do you do any dynamic stretching on him or anything to get him ready?
Yes. I mean, we're actually working on a program right now, a self-stretch program for Brian. That we're working off some of your core 4 things, and he's going to be traveling to his next competition, which is in Brazil, and I'm not going to be able to go with him on this one. So we're actually working on a program for him to do on his own now, and most of the time when we're together, he relies on me, and we can get a lot more done that way. But now that he's going to be off on his own a little bit, we've got a program for him. But when we travel to a competition such as the Arnold, I mean, we were doing a lot of pre-event stuff. We spent a good 30-40 minutes prior to the first event, and that's a real rapid, basically warm up / fascial stretch, And it's very interesting. I mean, we had a nice crowd of probably 20 people around us
Sure.
out there wondering what we were even doing.
Yeah.
But then, in between events, during, I mean, even in training, we're constantly, he's learned, he knows his body well, and he knows, where things are restricted, and, he can let me know, and we can get in there and fix it.
Well, let's shoot to Brian. Brian, working off of what Justin just said, when do you feel like you need the work that he does? Let's talk about, before you do something, before you compete, before you train, what is your favorite combination of things that Justin does with you that gets you ready?
Well, I mean, as far as like my therapy during the week, like we try to plan it a little bit around my different training sessions. So, for example, a big one is like we do like a big lower body stretch day before deadlifting. This hip flexibility and especially like through the glutes and hamstrings and that all being opened up before I deadlift is very important, because if I'm tight, it can really affect my form. And then, really, my left hip is an example of something that like normally we have to work on and open up. So if we do that, like I train better, I'm more flexible. It just helps me to perform better. So I mean that's one example, but like we go through and open up so many things, and like flexibility is such a huge part of performing better. So it just kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm trying to do. So naturally, like as I train, I'm going to be tighter, and so it's all about just like what we were talking about, pre and post, recovery. So I'm going to recover better, I'm going to perform better. Like it just all kind of fits together as a bigger picture.
Well, it's interesting you talked about the deadlift, because congratulations, from my understanding, you set 2 world records, and one was the deadlift at 1122 pounds.
Yeah, that was a big lift. Yeah.
That is huge. And then the Atlas stone at 540 pounds.
Yeah, the stones have typically been a good event for me since I got started in strongman. It's just kind of, I'm built really well to do that, and I'm obviously strong enough to do it. So it's good. It's really fun. Yeah.
What I'd like to understand, though, Justin was saying that you correct us if I didn't get this right, but he wrote to me that you attributed your gains, especially in the deadlift, to what you did with the fascial stretch therapy work. Now, how does that translate? Because some people think if you stretch, it makes you weak, and yet, and obviously, there's different kinds of stretching. Most people think you just sit there for 30 seconds and Justin's just holding your leg and counting to 30, which is not what you're doing, right?
No, not at all. Yeah.
So can you just draw the connection between what he's doing? And can you draw the connection between what Justin is doing that actually helps you do better to make those gains in the deadlift, such that you actually set a world record in it, which means you're a lot stronger?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's, like I said before, in my mind, flexibility equals strength. Like the longer a muscle is, the more room to contract. I mean, it's just long. Like everything that I've always trained in, and even before I met Justin, is that was my thing. Was full range of motion, and just being able to because I have a background in this too, so it's like it's nice because both of our minds together can work, and so like an exercise science-based program. So it's like I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist on top of it. So like when it comes to programming or whatever, like it's not like I have a lot of ideas, and then this has been perfect because it fits together, and it like I said, it's all about the bigger picture. So as far as like the deadlift though, and increasing performance, that's what this is all about. I mean, it's because for me, it's not about like maybe a 10% increase. It's about maybe a 1 or 2%.
Sure.
But that's huge for me, like at the level that I'm at and where I'm at. Like we're always working together to try to find a way to just get a little bit more and a little bit better. But, I have over the last year that we've worked together, like my flexibility has increased so much. I mean, I was a fairly flexible guy to start with because I came from a basketball background, and I tried to work on it myself before getting into this, but this has just kind of taken me to that next level. And so I think that's what I would attribute a lot of this to, just trying to always look for that competitive edge, so to speak, when it comes to that. So obviously being more flexible in deadlift, especially through my hips, has led to a lot of increases with that, especially with that lift.
Mm-hmm. So what are your favorite routines with Justin with that? Getting on the table, like hip flexors opened up, or glutes,
Absolutely.
or back?
Yeah, I would say lower body's probably my favorite. Like lower body stretch day. I mean, we've been able to get like to a next level kind of when I started, and it's funny all the time. Like we go back and forth, like to think about kind of where I started, because like I said, I had a decent amount of flexibility, but now it's just like sometimes Justin will say to me, "Hey, I'll not really be paying attention, and it'll say, 'Hey, look at where your leg is,' and I look up, and it's almost kind of crazy to think like my leg's almost above my head, and
Yeah.
who would think, like, who would really think that a guy my size could be that flexible? So it's kind of, we're, in a way trying to take things to the next level with not only with my size and strength, but with my performance and strongman.
Have you seen the movie Magic Mike? You might be able to do some exotic male dancing with that kind of flexibility. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's you got to sort of have, like you got to sort of your investments have to scatter around. You got to kind of like have a backup plan, too. So
who knows? Who knows, man? That's awesome. Wow.
That is fantastic. Brian, what's your next plan? What's your next event, and where you headed?
I actually leave next Thursday. I fly down to Brazil and I compete down there. And this is basically another Arnold Schwarzenegger's promoting this. So the Arnold Classic started in Columbus, Ohio, and now they've kind of gone to a world, like they run basically 3 of them a year. So they do one over in Europe and then one now South America and Brazil. So it's going to be fun. This is the first time they've had strongman at this event. They did it, they did it over in Europe last fall, and so this is exciting because it's actually going to be the first strongman contest that's going to be live on TV down there too. Wow. So it's really going to run quickly, and so we've been trying to come up with a plan because it's going to happen. Typically, strongman, like you do 1 or 2 events and then you get a break, and so it's kind of like we have a plan to kind of warm up, and then I compete in 1 or 2 events, and then I get a break, so I get to eat and recover a little bit. And this one's going to be just straight through. The whole contest is going to happen in like 3 hours. So awesome. It's going to be a big challenge mentally to handle it, but also physically with my body. So we've been trying to prepare for that adequately, and so it's going to be different, but it should be fun and exciting. Then really my plan after that, we're going to go back to work and try to get me ready for World's Strongest Man, which happens later in the year, normally in September.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of, I'm not really, at the point I'm at right now, I don't really do a lot of too many smaller contests. I try to focus on the major events during the year. And so we'll have basically kind of a little bit of a recovery period and then kind of start to build up, for training. But, it's funny because it seems like I'm always getting ready for something for the next event, but it's fun. I mean, to me, this is fun. Like training and lifting is fun, and getting for a contest is fun. So,
well, part of fun is not getting injured. So I would imagine,
yes.
that Justin has helped you prevent injuries. Would that be accurate?
No, yeah, absolutely. Like Justin said, I know one thing you have to learn to be, like, to get to the level I'm at in strongman is you have to be able to listen to your body. Like, that's one thing where you kind of, a lot of trainers or coaches or whatever sometimes get in that mentality where they push their athletes through that, like, if you're not feeling pain, you're almost not doing it right. And so for me, like, I know in training, if something's not right, I'll even tell Justin sometimes, hey, I just shut it down because something didn't feel right, with my shoulder or with my hip or my knee or whatever it is.
That's a new concept, right? That old school is push through it, and then people end up getting injured, right?
Yep.
So there's a time to push through it, even if it's uncomfortable, and then there's a time where you better not push through this. And coaches, with all due respect to coaches, they don't always know to make that right call. Some do, some don't. And even the athlete sometimes doesn't know when to make that call. Yep. And that's kind of 21st century training, I would call it, where you're actually listening to the body,
Sure.
and hopefully getting better results on account of that. It's not like you're not working hard because you're not pushing through something. It's like you know when to do it and when not to do it.
It's that fine line. Like you said, it's just being able to listen and know, because it's not about not working hard. It's, I know when to push and when to back off a little bit, and I think that's probably one of the hardest concepts to grasp when it comes to training and performance, and because you get in that mindset where if you push through something, but then if you end up getting hurt because of it, like you're gonna set yourself back further than getting ahead.
Right.
So it's interesting, but this is with the way that I feel, and especially after we do our work, and when I feel perfect, like then you have that kind of baseline to go off of. When something's not right, it's pretty easy for me to identify it and know when to back off. So that's been a cool part. I mean, with this, like I can feel even better now when something's not working right, because we've been able to fine tune it to that point.
That's a really good point about all that he does, but any attention in fascial stretch therapy, we like to say it actually improves proprioception or your kinesthetic sense, so you actually can feel things even better about what's going on. And we kind of have to wind down now because it's we could talk for hours on this, and maybe we'll have another section to talk about other things. But Justin, in a nutshell, tell me what it takes to work on a strongman. You need a strong table. I discovered that. And you need just a bunch of skills under your belt. And do you actually have to be strong to work on a strongman, or do you just use body leverage and mechanics? You got to use that elbow sometimes to get in there, eh?
Yeah, Brian, it's a whole different size, with him. I worked with NFL players. I worked with what I thought were the biggest athletes in the world. This is a whole nother level. So I train all week long. A lot of times I jump in, train with Brian, obviously nowhere, not the same stuff he does, but I have to keep myself strong, to be able to work with him. A lot of our sessions, we spend a couple hours, like I said, at a time, and not only even just strength, endurance. I mean, it takes a lot to work with him, but it is, a lot of leverage and, good body mechanics. There are certain things I can't necessarily do exactly how we learned them, within fascial stretch.
Yeah.
Just not, you can't do them, with a size that big.
You know what? We'd love for you we'll talk about, maybe we could do a little webinar about how to stretch strongmen, because honestly, the biggest guy I worked on was 6'6", 370 of muscle, and Leonard Davis, NFL.
Sure.
He's the biggest offensive lineman, and I thought that was big. I'm looking at Ryan, 6'8", 440. Yeah, that's not that big now. So,
sure.
And I had to modify too, you know what I mean? And even people who are obese, that are 400 pounds and they're
Sure.
obese, that's a whole nother technique. So anyway, we can talk about maybe how we need to modify our techniques to work with people and give them a really good session,
Sure.
So
sure. Love to.
We'll do that some other time. Unfortunately, I have to wrap it up, but it was great to interview Justin Willis and Brian Shaw, strongman of the world here, and we're looking forward to following you guys for the next event, and we wish you the best at the next in Brazil and at the world competition in the fall, and we'll be sure to follow you guys, and hopefully, maybe we could do this again.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. This is Chris Frederick from the Stretch to Win Institute. Thank you for listening.